Hi, my name is Bailey Hess, and I work at Historic Seattle. And this is a story about a place I love in Seattle. I think it was 2003 when I came to live here for the first time. I relocated from the East Coast, and the move involved a drive across country. I distinctly remember coming into Seattle from the north, and as we got close to Seattle, we started to pick up a radio station.
Welcome to KEXP's Music Matters. I'm Kevin Cole, host of the afternoon show,
that was playing just incredible music. A lot of the music I'd never heard before. Some of the music I knew but had never heard on the radio. And as we got closer and closer to Seattle, the radio station became clearer, and it just continued to play music I loved, and it enhanced the experience arriving in the place that would be my home so much. I'd eventually land in an apartment at the top of Queen Anne. It was a 4-story brick classic apartment building. It had awesome views. We faced south, and out of our living room window, we could see the Seattle Center and the Space Needle and Key Arena. As I began to settle in to my new city, I found that radio station again. I would come to learn that it was 90.3 KEXP. I pretty much started listening all the time. I was home a lot looking for work, and in a way, I got to know a lot about the city by listening. I heard about shows that were happening in parts of the city and different venues and things that were going on. I feel like I got to know a certain aspect of the culture of the city. I'd look out over this view of the Seattle Center and icons like the Space Needle and just soak in this experience of Seattle I was having through the airwaves. There's a timeline on KEXP.org where you can read about how the station got its start as KCMU on the UW campus as a volunteer and student-run radio station. And by the time I started listening, they broadcasted out of a building on Dexter Avenue. So that initial stint with me living in Seattle didn't last that long, and eventually I would return to a lifestyle of living and working aboard boats. And fortunately for me at that time, KEXP could be heard online. So wherever my travels took me, I would periodically get online and listen to the same voices I had heard when I lived in Seattle, talking about the same places I had heard about and visited and frequented when I lived in Seattle. And I would be reminded of this very acute sense of place. I moved back to Seattle in 2013 and was stunned by how much the city had changed. Of course, I was elated to be back in Seattle and to have the ability to listen to KEXP just on the dial, on the radio, and in my car again. And I would soon learn that KEXP was getting a new home, and that its new home would be in Seattle Center. I started to work at Historic Seattle in 2015, and one of the things that drew me to the organization is that it recognizes the importance of things that make a place unique. I appreciate that there's an understanding that places have great value, not just in their physical elements, but also in their ability to sustain and foster community and culture. Historic Seattle works to preserve places that communities can thrive within and among. I think there's some crossover too between the work that Historic Seattle does and the work at KEXP. Aside from producing shows that feature a variety of music, from local music to world music, from hip hop to ambient to Americana, everything in between just about, KEXP does a ton of work to foster community and bring community together around mental health issues, around LGBTQ issues. They do a ton of programming to help emerging artists develop and be successful. And now in their new home in the Seattle Center, it's an actual physical space, the gathering space, where under normal circumstances, people can do just that, gather and watch the DJs in action. And they have a live studio where you can catch performances from visiting artists. There's a cafe, you can grab coffee. They host free concert series at the Mural in Seattle Center. It's just a really unique and vibrant place where people can come together around music. And while so much has changed in Seattle, KEXP has just been this constant yet evolving presence. Even these days, the DJs are, many of them, broadcasting from home and just helping to maintain a sense of connection and a little glimmer of normalcy. If you've never listened, I hope you'll go online and find a show that appeals to you, or just turn on the radio and give it a shot. Thanks for listening to my story. Take care.